Hello and welcome to this episode of the Excalibur podcast, hosted by me, Kyle Brooks, where we have real people, real stories, and real progress. Today we have an esteemed guest, Andres Contreras. He is a 17-year-old that has made a living for himself. He's basically taken his skill and perfected it and continues to make progress on that. And is bears testament to the fact that education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. Welcome, my brother. How are you doing today, my man?
Great, man. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Man, your content has truly inspired me as a person, and I'm sure it's inspiring a lot of people out there. And I just wanted to get into your story, how you became and structured the approach to being the person that you are today. Where did it all start?
Yeah, so it all started about a year and a half ago in a high school classroom in my math class is where it all began. Um, and I think from the very beginning, like if I go back even to my childhood, I was always somebody who always wanted to win. I was always very, very competitive. And I think a lot of that came from like throughout school, whether it was high school or middle school or whatever it was, I always felt like I didn't fit in.
Mhm.
And I think naturally in psychology, when you feel like you don't fit in, you assume it's because you're worse than other people, even if it's because you're better.
Right.
You naturally assume the inferior position.
Hmm.
And so being in that position where you constantly feel worse or inferior, it creates a natural desire to want to be better and want to win and want to be competitive and like beat people at different things. And so for me, it became sports initially. And I ended up getting to a pretty high level. I became like a semi-pro soccer player until eventually I came down from 2 injuries in a row. And that kind of put me out of commission. Also, I was playing soccer in the United States. So if I tried going pro against European players, I would have gotten destroyed. But so then that kind of got me into the business world initially. And that's how everything just began from the start.
Awesome, awesome. So what you're saying is that sports and your mindset of competitiveness has spurred you on to being a better and more skillful person. But
Exactly.
but something came up, injuries came up, and that kind of transitioned into a different facet of your life.
Exactly. Because I think naturally when you have a mindset, it's your identity. And every action you take is always going to be in correlation with your identity. So for me, it was wanting to win. It was
Hmm.
being competitive, being a winner. Anything I did, I wanted to be the best at it. I would not lose. I would not allow it. And so
Right.
going into business, the exact same mindset. I went in at the exact same time as 100 other people
Hmm.
that I knew. And it was like, I see all these people. I want to beat all of them. How do I do it? And then
Mm.
that's when I started figuring out, obviously, like developing the work ethic, putting myself through hard shit on purpose, skill set, everything else. Like it all came with that. But it all started with that mindset and with that mentality.
Right. You personify Floyd Mayweather's quote. He said that if you and I get on a treadmill together, either you're getting off first or I'm dying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That is exactly the best way to put it.
So here's a question for you. How did you develop that? Because obviously, yes, you felt that you were different. You felt that you didn't fit in and you felt less than, so you pushed to go higher than and to
Yeah.
be better than. But there's a switch in your head that happens. What was that catalyst for you? What was that switch that literally led you to being to taking that on?
I think it was two things. I think number one, it was having a deep understanding of self. So,
Mm,
like, I'll give you an example. In high school, I always felt inferior because I didn't fit in.
mhm,
And it always, like, every day I was walking around, like, oh, like, why am I not happy? Like, why do I feel sad? Why am I not like at my peak? Why don't I feel passionate about life?
mm,
And it was realizing, like, where does that come from? And so I looked internally, and that's when I started digging into like Tony Robbins and other people like that. And that's when I started making the correlation of like, whatever people want in life, what they value, it's because of childhood or some extreme thing that's happened in their life. If
mm.
they always grew up with, for example, a mother who never loved them, then they're going to crave a relationship where they feel love and intimacy. It's the exact same thing. Whatever you want is a direct correlation of what you haven't had. And that's also sales in itself, which I'm sure we'll dive into later.
Yes.
But it was understanding if what I want is a direct correlation of what I haven't had is the feeling of winning, the feeling of being part of something.
Mhm.
And so it was like, well, how can I achieve it? And so initially, again, it became sports, then obviously going through that journey, then eventually it became business and sales and psychology and everything else. But I think number one, it's having a deep understanding of why are you the way that you are.
Right.
Most people never even figure out why they're the person that they are. And if you don't figure that out, that's your superpower.
Right.
That is what makes you you,
Hmm.
is figuring that out. Right. That was the first thing. The second thing was understanding like people have this concept of associating pain with something bad. This hurts. This is bad. I don't want to go through this. But when you start making the association of nothing good in life happens without something bad happening first. And it's not necessarily bad, but it's pain.
Right.
You want to get in shape, you got to go to the gym, fucking sucks. Now you're in shape.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing in sports, same thing in soccer, same thing in business. I want to get very proficient at sales. I have to do a ton of repetitions, even when I don't like it. I have to get rejected 10 times in a day and the next day do the exact same thing another time. I have to write that same damn script on a piece of paper until my fingers start bleeding. Like, it's doing the painful stuff over and over and over again is what develops you as a man in the beginning.
Right.
And so it was realizing that, then it was like, great, how can I create that hardship in my life?
Mm.
And that led to the whole story of me ending up running away from home and like just leaving my parents without any heads up, nothing. That led to me working 17, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for months on end without talking to anybody. Like, it all led to that because it was having that fundamental understanding. So if I had to boil it down to two things, I think it would be those two. Okay. Understanding who you truly are as a person, number one, that's your strength. And then number two, realizing, making the association between pain versus the result you want to get. Because then you put yourself through that pain more intentionally through the hardship.
Right. So deep inner self-understanding, and then putting yourself in uncomfortable situations that are going to create pain. Like exactly. Alexis Carrel said, man needs suffering to be remade, for he is both the sculptor and the sculpture. The David exactly. that you're creating is yourself. So exactly. you've done that to yourself, 100%. Do what is hard and your life will be easy. But do exactly. what is easy and your life will be hard.
Exactly. My mom literally sent me a quote because my parents were never into business, entrepreneurship, anything. Now they're actually trying to start a company because my dad, he's a very, very good neuroscientist and everything else. Mm-hmm. And so he developed a product that he put a patent on. And they're taking an entrepreneurship class right now over the summer. And my mom, she sends me a quote and it was like, entrepreneurship is doing what people aren't willing to do for a couple of years to live a life that other people cannot live, or something like that.
Precisely.
And I was like, that was success in my mind.
Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful, yeah. Man, you truly have a great mindset. And I think that's one of the biggest things that is lacking in today's culture. It's the mindset of wanting to, especially here in the United States, right? I'm from South Africa originally. We grew up hard. That's just a given. Different. You come over here and it's like, man, this is so easy. And so wonder why. So you completely differentiated yourself, but you also put in the work to become who you are right now. So what is your next iteration of how you developed that skill set? So you put yourself into the situation of, hey, I've got no other choice but to sink or swim, and you chose to swim very, very well. So how did you choose to develop sales as a skill?
So I realized naturally as a tendency, I would be good at sales because I was very good at reading people. So like, for example, if you have somebody who as a child, they're abused as a kid, or they have a very bad childhood, like where they grow up, whatever, which was not me whatsoever. But if it was, those people, now they have a skill set where they'll walk into a room and they're able to read everybody's micro expressions. Is this person happy? Is he sad? What mood is he in? How's he going to treat me? Because that becomes like a survival instinct for them. It's a mechanism. It became the same thing for me, but through school. Because I always felt inferior and I never felt enough, then it was like, and it sounds stupid, but it's completely true. If I was going to go to the lunch table that our entire friend group would sit at, I need to immediately be able to read. Like, okay, am I about to get made fun of for the next hour? Like, am I going to, like, what are we doing here? And that literally became my strength, because then I would go into a sales call. I could see their little shifts in their body language. I could see them lean out a little bit. Their shoulders drop a little bit, right? Like I can notice these little things that other people couldn't pick up on. And it became an instinct to me. It's like, how does this person feel? I asked a question, they lean out a little bit. So I realize they're uncomfortable, which means there's a point right there. So I probe deeper. Like that all became instinct. And so I never, and this is one thing people get wrong, I never liked sales. To this day, I never had a passion for it whatsoever. But I don't think as a man trying to become successful, you do what you like to do. I think your goal should be to be productive. And so you do what you have to do. I think is the difference. And so it was realizing I have this natural kind of instinct for sales, if you will, by being able to read people. And then it was like, great. So that's the skill set I'm going to develop. Even if I don't like it, even if I don't have a passion for it, I am going to develop it.
Right.
So that's what made me go into it in the beginning. Then it was kind of nurturing that. So it was like before I couldn't actively think like, oh, this person is uncomfortable because they're leaning out. Like that wasn't a thought that went through my mind. It just became an instinct. Like I'd be like, oh, there's something here. I didn't know what it was, but like there's something. So I got to go deeper into it. And then eventually it was nurturing that to be able to make an active skill set where it was like, okay, he just leaned out a little bit. We're going deep into this. Right. And then being able to to it. So that was a big part of it. And then number two is learning a structure and creating a structure for me to follow, because I'm very good at like I think there's two types of people. There's people who are very good at modeling, and there's people
Hmm.
who are very good at innovating.
Right.
I think as a modeler, you have to become better at innovating. As a innovator, you have to become better at modeling. I'm an
Hmm.
innovator. So I had to become better at modeling. And so for me, it was finding a system that I could replicate over and over and over again on every single sales call, like a process
Hmm.
to where I could get that result every single time. And so I had to innovate that process. And so I think those were the kind of like two major facets I kind of had to develop in order to become great at sales by having that natural instinct, if you will.
Interesting. So you mentioned Tony Robbins earlier on, and he's biggest prof for one of the things or techniques that he utilizes is NLP. And
Yeah.
I think that NLP is one of the most powerful systems that you can ever implement into your life because you spoke about modeling there. And it
Yeah.
says that where there's excellence, where one human has done it, you can model that excellence to get exactly the same results over and over again.
True.
So by understanding people's body language, you're probably also looking at the eye axis and cues. So you're
Yeah,
saying,
exactly.
okay,
Access and queues and everything else. Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
you
From
can
day
start
one.
you can start to implement structures based on that. And it doesn't matter even what if they speak the same language as you, because body
Yeah.
language accounts for 90% of what we're actually saying. It's not what we're saying, it's how we're saying it.
Exactly. 93%. Yeah.
So you've developed this skill set. You're still exceptionally young. What is your next iteration of where you want to become in the next 10 years?
I think I had a realization, and I had this earlier on, but it always hits you more and more and more. Since at the beginning, it was like, how can I, and it sounds bad, but it's the truth, and I'm never going to sugarcoat it. It
Hmm.
was, how can I become superior to these people that I'm around, more
Hmm.
successful, whether it's through fitness, whether it's, so that became sports, whether it's through business, finances, whatever it might be. Right. And so after I got to like 30K a month, I was still in school.
Right.
And so I see all these people around me, and I'm at 30K a month, and they're in math class. And it's like, okay, this box is already checked off. Like there's not much more where I need to really do to go above that. So then it stopped having to be that drive of the money or the business in the first place. Like that couldn't be a driver anymore because I'd already achieved it.
Hmm.
And so then it became like, I'm a big believer, and you have to have a mission outside of yourself. You need it.
Yeah.
There's no other choice.
Hmm.
Because if you wake up, I'll give you an example. If you're driven by yourself and you wake up one morning and you feel tired and you just lost your best customer or your best employee or whatever it is, and everything feels like shit and you're exhausted and you don't want to work, you're not going to work.
Yeah.
But if you're driven by things outside of yourself, by a vision,
Hmm.
like your parents, let's say, you're trying to provide for them, and you wake up that day and you're tired and everything sucks, it doesn't matter because it's not
Right.
about
Hmm.
you're still going to work on that day. You're still going to do everything you have to do.
Right.
And so, like for me, for example, from the very beginning, after I got to that 30K a month mark, it became a mission of like, how can I make sales education available to the youth?
Mm.
So now, for example, we launched a free group like 3 weeks ago or whatever that has live sales call recordings, as free training, like as everything. And within like 3 weeks, and it grew, like half the growth was like off of referrals and affiliate links and all that stuff.
Wow.
And because of the pure amount of value in it, right?
Hmm.
And so, like that's fulfilling that goal for me. Like that became the biggest community that's active in the entire high ticket sales space within like a week. Now
Beautiful.
3 weeks in, and I was like 4,500 people or something like that. And it was
Damn.
because that's my mission. That is
Yeah.
what I'm driving for. So
Hmm.
even if I'm not going to make money off of it, it's okay. I don't care. It's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
But it drives me when I wake up. If I feel tired during that launch, and I said this publicly many, many times, I was sleeping between like 2 to 4 hours a night for like 5 days straight during that launch to make sure everything was going right. This thing in the tech was breaking. This person was reaching out. This editor needed this. This guy needed this. Like it was just all day, just running shit. Right.
Right.
And I could do that
Hmm.
because it wasn't about me.
Yeah.
If that entire time, it would have been like, oh, I'm going to sell this high ticket coaching program for 10 grand, blah, blah. I need to make a lot of money. Then that morning when I wake up and I've been on 3 hours of sleep for the past 4 days, I wouldn't want to get up.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. So looking for something outside of yourself. So your mission outside of yourself is to bring sales tactics and sales systems to the youth. And you're obviously going to drop your link or give me all the links so I can actually put that into this podcast so that we can actually
Sure.
spread that out from our perspective. You know, when Einstein was asked why he answered simply, man is here to serve other men only. And if we look at it that from that perspective, that's exactly what we're doing. If you look at all the people that are very successful in the world, they're creating things or instances where they can serve people. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, all the guys that are doing billions and dollars of sales, they're just serving more and more people. So that's
Yeah.
exactly what you're doing right now. So
This is a great point. This is even something I want to touch on. If
yeah.
you look at most of those high ticket coaching companies,
Mm-hmm.
most of them, the majority, the guys, the core sellers, whatever, like 95% of them, it fails after like 6 months, or they have a massive tank in revenue.
Right.
I know because I've seen the insides of all of them
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
know the day to day of them. And so that's like 95% of them. Massive tank or just completely fall off. And I think fundamentally it's because of what you just said. Man is there to serve other men.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just like abusing Affirm loans and stuff for people who cannot afford it and who it's not going to benefit them, then I think fundamentally you're going to fail.
Yeah.
There's a thing that's really good. And I think it was Jeff Bezos who said it. He said the biggest determining factor of a company's success in the long run is word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Because take Apple, for example. If Apple's word of mouth about the iPhone was everybody talking about how bad it is, nobody would buy an iPhone. They would be out of business.
Right.
At small scale, at very small scale, you can do it. You can have terrible word of mouth and still grow to 100, 200, 300K a month. After that point, if you have bad word of mouth and you have 200,000 followers, what's going to be in your entire comment section?
Whole lot bad.
Business reviews online. It's all the same stuff. You can't grow past that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's fundamentally why so many of those high ticket coaching companies fail like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they don't have that word of mouth and they're not men trying to serve other men.
Yeah.
And I think those people eventually either they try it again and they fail again, or they figure out you have to be a man there to serve other men.
Mm-hmm.
And then they end up building something beautiful. Or they sit down and they prioritize service delivery and they work on that for a year straight. And then they end up growing. So
Right.
I think there's facets of it, but I 1,000% agree with you. And I think that's the biggest determining factor in a business.
Yeah.
It's considered.
And I think you touched on something very interesting there as well, because of the fact that have you read Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time?
I haven't read it, but I know about it and I know Dan. So
Definitely a good book to read. And in there he speaks about the fact that you need to fill your investment quadrant. It might not be servicing you or creating revenue for you right now, but from that perspective, you're growing yourself and it's filling up your energy level. And that's exactly what it sounds like you're doing right now. I think the course that you call is WAP, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken.
WAP is the platform we hosted on.
Okay.
But ours is actually, it's called the Impact Team.
Impact Team. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. So that's going on right now. What is next for you, sir? You've got this whole life ahead of you, man. What is next?
That's actually been something I've struggled with a little bit. And I think that's a good struggle to have. If that's the biggest struggle you got to worry about.
Yeah.
But like from the beginning, like, okay, this place, for example, or like what I'm able to do or the group that I'm building, my plan, like from the beginning is I wanted to have all this stuff. And like, when I was like 35 or like 40 or something,
Yeah.
and now I'm friggin' 17 and I already have it. So then it's kind of a game of like, what's next for me? I think a couple things that I know for sure is that I want to get the business that we're running, which is the B2B side and all that stuff, to like 1.5 million a month before I turn 21. I think it's a goal. I'm 20. And then I want to start a nonprofit. So like a company that actually runs that's self-sustaining, that all the profit just goes to charities and foundations. Because I think a lot of people it's a lot of charities that like they beg for money or they're like, oh, give me money here, give me money here. But I don't think that's really sustainable, I guess, in the long run. Versus if you can just build a company that's actually profitable, that also helps people through their delivery, and then all the profit also goes to charity, then I think that's the best model. So I want to create something like that. And then I know I want to expand it vertically. So if you talk about like supply chains, for example, like if you have a food company, for example, you need delivery trucks to drive it. So food companies, then they'll hire a delivery company, but then that becomes like a massive expense because that company needs to be profitable as well. So then instead, then I also start a trucking company, and the trucking company supports the agriculture company, and then just expanding vertically to where profit margin can be very, very high, because then that'll all go to different foundations and charities and stuff. I know that's a massive goal I want to have. And then this sounds crazy, but I also want to get married before I'm 21. Is another goal. We'll see if that happens.
Interesting. What makes you say that though? That is a very interesting lost goal.
Whether you want to call it ego or whatever you want to call it, I think because I can read people better, I think I can see people's intentions pretty quickly. We'll find out if I'm right or not, and it'll be a massive decision. But I just think I can figure it out faster, I guess you could say.
Interesting.
See if it works out or not. But
just bear in mind, people do change after a couple of years.
yeah, that I do.
that happens. So I'll let you know that from experience.
Fair enough.
Awesome. Awesome, brother. Okay, so I think that about covers it. Where can our guests find you? Where can they start to link up with you? And then also, I'm also going to put you in touch with a couple of corporate companies that I think that you'd be great for actually teaching them sales because your
Cool.
sales are phenomenal. Yeah,
Sweet. Yeah. If you guys want to check me out, just go to Instagram. All my links will be on there. So just go to Instagram. Just look up my name, Andres Contreras, and then I should pop up in there. There's some good objection handling stuff, the link to the group and all that's in there as well.
definitely. I love his version of heavy is the head that wears the crown. That is freaking awesome.
That's a great one. That is
Yeah.
a great one. 100%.
Well, guys, you know where to find us. You can find us on Excalibur Coaching on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, as well as Spotify. And remember, where there is a human being, there is a human story. Have a great day, guys.
Have a blessed one.